Hey guys, welcome back to the Experts Game podcast. My name is Matt Russell and I'm your host. Today we are very excited to have special guest with us, Mandy Pearce. Mandy is a trainer here in North Carolina, and she works specifically with nonprofits and those that are that are doing grant writing for their businesses and individuals. Welcome to the show, Mandy.
Thanks, Matt. It's good to be here.
I am glad you are as well. Well, let's just go ahead and get started. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
So I am a nonprofit consultant, and we do everything in the world of development. So everything from board development and strategic planning to fundraising, grant writing, program design, template creation, consensus building meetings, and things like that. We work with clients all over the country. We are based in North Carolina. I'm a North Carolina girl. Haven't ever lived anywhere else. We love to teach online, we teach in person, and we do the same virtual trainings and virtual work with our clients.
Okay. Well, what made you get into that business?
I got into grant writing in 1997, when I worked for the American Lung Association in Asheville. I didn't even know what it was at the time. And I just fell in love with it. I started working in nonprofits. I had one for-profit job ever, worked for General Electric for a year, and then went right back to the nonprofit world. When the economy crashed in 2008, I was working full-time. I had a job, and then I lost my job. And I had kind of been toying around with doing a business part-time. At that point, I got a part-time job. I got scammed by a company in California, which led me to start my first grant writing course in person, which I did in February of 2009, I think. And that kind of was the starting point. I went pretty hardcore full part-time for 2 or 3 years, and then I went full-time in October of 2014. So,
wow.
yep.
So almost 6 years, 5.5 years, you have been completely full-time in this business.
Yes.
So tell us some of the, I guess, struggles that you might have had when you began. What were some of the things that either kept you working at that time or maybe pushed you completely into full-time work with this?
So there were two things that pushed me to full-time work. One, I had more part-time work than I could do in evening hours, lunch hours, and weekends. Because I had a full-time job. And then I started having some personality conflicts with my CEO at my full-time job. So it became apparent that I should just go ahead and make my exit strategy quicker than I thought. It was only about 6 months quicker than I planned initially, but I had enough clients at that time. And my brother gave me a little boost to help me financially get through that. But yeah, it was a combination. It was just a perfect storm of opportunity and life circumstances.
Okay. Well, I think right now, as some of you guys may be watching this, we may still be in the stay-at-home orders, or we're dealing with the after effects of COVID-19, or maybe you're seeing this where we're still dealing with it. I don't really know, but that just kind of makes me think a lot about this storm that we're in right now. You said the perfect storm to get you moving in your business. What do you think about the times that we're in right now? Do you feel like me that this is a great opportunity for business owners?
I think it is, and I think a lot of it's about your perspective and how much you're willing to, as a lot of people are saying right now, stop and pivot. You know, do you have the bandwidth to think outside the box from what you've always done and say, how can I still be relevant, and how can I change to make my services what are needed right now? We've been doing a whole lot of that. So part of it is messaging, part of it is knowing your audience, part of it is listening enough to know what the current needs are and anticipating what those future needs are going to be. So it's been a lot of work. I kind of thought it might be a little bit of a slower time. I don't know how it's been for you, but man, I have been swamped just with creating new stuff and tweaking old stuff and trying to get it out there. And now I'm competing with everybody else that's teaching online. So it's been good, exhilarating, exhausting.
Well, I know exactly what you mean. I mean, this has not been a slowdown for myself or my business at all. It's actually been a pick me up, I guess. But the biggest issue is exactly what you just said with perspective. How do you look at this, scenario, this situation that we're in? It's really funny you use the word pivot because I've got a new class that I will be teaching in about 2 weeks called Pivot, and it's changing in challenging times. So hopefully I'll be able to get that out to a lot of business owners and prospective entrepreneurs. But honestly, I feel like it's all about our perspective. There's going to be two types of people that come out of this situation. You're either going to have someone who sat around and took a vacation and didn't really do much, and then when everything goes back to our new normal, I don't think it's going to go to the way it used to be, and I'm actually happy about that. But I think when it gets back to that steady pace again, unfortunately, those are the people that are going to be kind of behind. And those people who pivoted, that made the change, that took the initiative during this time, they're going to be ahead with their businesses. And I sincerely hope that it works out well for both of us, because I know that when you said that a few moments ago, I have definitely been busier over the past few weeks than I've probably ever been.
I know. Everybody keeps saying, I'm ready to go back to work. I'm ready to go back. And I'm like, I'm ready to take a week off.
That's right. I need a long vacation. But, the neat thing about our business is we can probably do that. We can probably take that long vacation. And, instead of broadcasting, from our homes, once things open up, I mean, we could broadcast from anywhere.
Yes.
And I'm not so sure that the online classes are going to really go away. I mean, I think that that's something that is going to be beneficial to a lot of people. I've had the pleasure over the past few weeks of having classes with people all over the United States in them.
And we've been doing a lot more interactive. Like we've had to adapt a little. People are used to seeing us in person, so now we're teaching where people can see us on video, which we've never done really before.
Mm-hmm.
And it just adds another element of, you got to have your technology up and working. You got to have your office kind of situated so it doesn't look, crappy or cluttered or whatever. You have to be fixed up. I realized today I'm not fixed up, but you kind of have to be presentable and figure out how you can engage the audience and learn all those tools and tricks in the software, like doing polls and surveys and stuff to keep people engaged. But I don't think any of that's bad. It's just time consuming.
Yeah. And that's, in the past, me and you both, I know that when we're in front of an audience, we see their eyes, we see their facial expressions.
Yep.
And sometimes on a Zoom meeting, we don't see those.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's good and sometimes it's bad. I mean, you just you can't really gauge them that well unless we're doing those things that you just mentioned, like the add-ons, the polls, and the questions and the surveys and stuff. Well, let me jump ship just a little bit and ask you. We've talked about training in person. We've talked about online training. What would you say would be your typical work day?
I don't have a typical.
Okay.
I mean, I really don't. It's just whatever needs to get done that day is what gets done. And I have a schedule. Like I'm looking out at my office right now and I have a huge whiteboard with all the things I need to do. But then I also have a huge set of 4 whiteboards that are all calendars for the next 4 months. Mm-hmm. So I can see like what's coming up. I plan really far ahead. So I can look at my calendar and say, oh, I need to create the PowerPoint for Butch for next week. Or, oh, I need to send so-and-so invoices or whatever. I don't really have a typical. I schedule a couple of days a week to take phone calls for potential clients. And then, I have all my regular work. I teach a lot. Now I'm teaching a lot online, so that's cutting into my work time. But I'm trying this year to be done by 5 or 6 every day. I'm trying to take at least half a day off every week. I'm trying not to work on weekends. This is very different. I used to work probably 12 hours a day every day. So, it's just get up and walk the dogs, eat breakfast, maybe walk myself with my husband, and then work, and then get done with work and walk the dogs and eat dinner and watch TV and go to bed.
Okay.
That's the day.
Well, that sounds, very similar. I don't really have a set schedule every day. Sometimes I wish I did, but sometimes I'm happy that I don't. I like the ability to be able to just do things when I want to do things, but I also schedule a long time in advance, and I
Oh, yeah.
try to make sure that I keep track of that. If it wasn't for the calendar in my phone, I think I would be, in trouble.
I'm a paper calendar girl, and I remember most things in my head, but I don't do any online calendaring except my scheduling appointments for people to talk to me on the phone for work.
Okay.
I have an Acuity page for that, but everything else is on paper. I'm an old school person like
Well,
that.
I feel like the older I get, if I don't put it somewhere, then I forget it. Usually, I have a pretty good memory, but anyway, that's another subject, I guess. Um, Let me ask you this question. This is kind of interesting. What do you think? Was there one thing that you think made you really successful in online training, or maybe a couple of things?
Um, I think my teaching style is the same in person as it is online. It's
Okay.
pretty dynamic, and I don't read from scripts. So everything I teach is stuff I know. So I just talk and answer questions and give people as much content as I can. I think that's been really helpful. Um, I don't watch a lot of online trainings because I'm not a patient person, but I notice a lot of people have scripted things or they record stuff ahead of time. It's not live. It's not personal. They don't get around to the questions. And so I think our stuff is a little different in that way. But I also know that I had a coach. I hired a coach for the first 6 months that I had my business full time.
Mhm.
And that 6 months was probably the most crucial time that I had in my business. And I grew so much more and so much faster and avoided so many pitfalls because of having that coach. And she hosted a webinar for me at her office in Tennessee. And I drove up there and she did my first webinar with me because I was scared to do like all the technology stuff. And I got 6 clients from that call, built my confidence. It was just a great learning experience. And I would say those 2 things definitely.
Wow, that's great news. Coaching, I think, can be very beneficial to a lot of people. That's what I do as well. And back to the scripted stuff, that's what I love about coaching so much. If somebody were to ask me, well, what are you gonna work with me on? My answer is going to be your business, and that's it. I don't have a script. I don't, I'm going to come in and evaluate everything that you tell me, and then we're going to have a plan. There are certain things obviously I do with every single person I work with, but the neat thing is that it's not scripted. It can change, with anybody. And I think hiring a coach is great advice for new entrepreneurs. I think that's something that anybody that's wanting to get started in business, whether it's grant writing or nonprofit business or maybe for profit or whatever, hiring
Definitely.
somebody that has the outside advantage. They're looking at your business without emotion. They're taking all that out of it, and they're looking at something that can help you grow. I think that's always a very good benefit. Well, Mandy, thank you so much today. I know you've got to scoot off here. You've got a couple more appointments here in the next few minutes. Before we leave, if there's anything else that you would give aspiring entrepreneurs, just a couple of tips, what would they be?
The first thing I would say is have at least a 1-year revenue plan. You need to know what your expenses are, obviously, but you have to sit down and have a plan for what you're going to bring in and how. So even if that means I've never taught a paid webinar before, but I'm going to offer one and I want to get at least 50 people on that webinar. If you have those written goals down, you have something to work towards, then it's going to become much more realistic and much more possible that you're going to achieve it. I've done that every year I've been an entrepreneur since I was part-time and now, and it changes throughout the year. But if I write down a goal, there's a pretty good chance I'm gonna make it happen because I want to see me check that box. So even if it's like I'm 2 people away, what can I do to get 2 more people registered for this event or whatever? And honestly, like I got the coolest goal this year. I have a new membership program and I was like, I want to get 50 people into this program. And that was my goal. So we started marketing it in November, and I had, like 40 something people by the end of January when we had the first event. And this month I got to my 55th person registered. So like I'm still registering people in and they're accessing the content from the beginning of the year, but I met my goal and exceeded it. So now I'm already projecting like what's my goal for next year going to be? Because we're going to do a similar program and it's going to be higher. And what am I going to do to make that happen? So first thing I would say is got to have some goals, make them for a year, don't make anything crazy, and have a strategy for how you're going to accomplish it, and then work that. If you need to add strategies, cool. If you need to talk to other entrepreneurs to figure out what else you can do it. Do that. If you're new, get a coach. Even if it's just for 6 months, you would be surprised how much you will learn that you didn't know. I'll give you a snippet there. I didn't know when I started my business that I needed to not be a DBA. I didn't know anything about an S Corp or LLC or any of that stuff. First year in business, I was doing business as, because that's what I had always been as a part-time, right? But I had my full-time job to offset those taxes. I paid $19,000 in taxes my first year full-time as a business owner, for real. Ended up 2 years of paying the IRS $1,000 a month. It was ridiculous. If I had had my business coach before I started that first year, I wouldn't have had that problem. So not everything is going to be that dramatic or that expensive, but get a coach just for a little time. And hey, if you're in North Carolina and you have a small business center in your area, you can get free consulting and counseling there. So go look at the small business centers until you get to the point that you really need more custom help. I would say those two things, and I would say be flexible. Realize that stuff's going to happen. Not every great idea you have is going to make. Some of them are, and they're going to be phenomenal, but be flexible. Adjust as you need to. It's okay, right? Everything we do doesn't happen the first time we do it. So those are the 3 things I would say: business plan, coach, and be flexible.
Wow. Great advice. I really do appreciate it today. Thank you so much. Guys, I'm going to put some information for Mandy's businesses down in the comment section below. You'll be able to reach her. And if you have any questions about anything that she said today or anything that you need help with, just make sure you follow us here on Facebook and YouTube, and we will be glad to assist you. Mandy, thank you so much. Thanks again for everything.
Thanks for having me.
I know you've got to run, but I appreciate everything. I hope you have a great day.
Okay, you too.